Hello, all. Welcome back. My name is Italy Jure Lee, and I will be co hosting, facilitating this panel alongside Liv, whose square I cannot see, but I just want to make sure that she's on.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I
Cool.
am putting
Okay.
together, I said, facilitator, and I will also be helping facilitate this wonderful panel.
So, this is the moment that we've all been waiting to talk to our amazing lineup of panelists about careers in the arts. Panelists, please wave when we introduce you so everyone can attach your name to your talented faces.
First, we have Marco Hall. He's a fashion designer whose work has been on the cover of Vogue, Bazaar, and even movies.
And then we have Jason Kupperman, the founder of Golden Gates Talent Agency, who will give you guys further insight on the music industry.
Next, we have Ricardo Watson. He's a dialogue editor, recording engineer, and two-time Emmy-winning award winner who's worked with Sony, WB Animation, and so much more.
And then on top of that, we have Anna Maria Rivera Promick, an art director, owner, and principal designer of Associate Creative.
After that, we'll have Laika Nuna Yara, a public artist and multidisciplinary storyteller, best known for large-scale community-based murals.
And then we have Carrie Ann Simone Munoz, who is the director of dance education at Dance NJ and development manager for Young Audiences NJ.
And last but certainly not least, we'll have Daryl L. Stewart, a performing artist and producer, a multi-hyphenated actor, director, producer, curator, and educator with a deep passion for the performing arts.
So let's give a warm welcome to all our panelists. If we could just do a little applause of some sort, because I'm really excited to talk to them all today. So, with that being said, as you can see, we do have a beautiful lineup for you, and who's going to give you a bunch of insight. And that means also the opportunity to ask questions, which will come in the last 15 minutes of this panel. So, with that being said, I'll pass it over to Liv, and we'll start with Marco.
Sorry. Awesome. So, Marco, what is it that you do?
I'm a fashion designer. I also teach on the side, but I'm first and most I'm a fashion designer. I create custom clothing for everyone, from men, women, children, celebrities, the average Joe. What else? I'm an artist. I'm a creator. I love to create anything that with my hands to create out of fabrics. I just enjoy the fact of being an artist. That's it. That's who I am, Marco Hall.
Awesome. Can you tell us what that journey's been like, your artistic journey?
Well, it's been freeing because I've been allowed to express myself through garments. I love working with prints and stuff because prints and stuff move. But fashion has always gave me a outlet to do and express myself. And now I get to give back to the world. I get to give it to people and allow them to express themselves through their sexiness, through their humbleness, whatever they feel like they want to become in dress. I can make that happen. So the experience has been great for me. The journey has been gratifying. It has been uplifting. It has been my rock. It has been everything you can think of is for me. It is everything I am that I embody. So it's just been a journey of learning and always trying something new. And I love the fact that, through fashion, I can create things, I can see walking art, I can see collaborating with different people, taking their artwork and turning into art, turning into fashion. So it's been
Yeah,
like the journey has been up and down everywhere. So, but it's always growing, it's always flourishing, it's always moving forward. So that's what it's for me.
that's an amazing journey you went on. And what advice would you give to a young person who's looking to take a similar path to you?
For me, I always say stay true to your aesthetic. What you believe in, what your heart believes in when you're creating, put that out there because the world will see it. When you try to follow someone else's path, no one recognizes it because it's someone else's. Follow your own path when you're creating because that's who you are, and people will gravitate to who you are. So that's why I always tell kids, stay true to your aesthetic. Don't follow the masses. Follow what your heart says and where you want to be in this game and where you want to be in fashion. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for that advice.
Well,
Absolutely. And Marco, I also just kind of want to add on because your name sounds very familiar for me. And I know you also said that you're from Newark, and I'm also from Newark. And I believe a couple of years ago I saw a it was like a fashion show at the Newark Art Museum. Was
Yes,
that your work?
I'm,
I
I'm
don't know.
almost positive. I'm almost positive it was. Yeah,
Was it like a it was like white dresses and like white.
yes, that was my
Yes.
show. That's my show called Couture and Blanc. I did it with Louis K. Smith III. He did an art installation outside of the museum. So he looked at the museum up and thought, well, why not do these white dresses to illuminate the lighting outside? So yeah, that was me. Yeah, it was in October,
Yeah.
2019, I believe. 2019.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was there with my grandmother, and I remember seeing all of like the dresses and like the different outfits come down. And I was like amazed because your work is like truly phenomenal, and I just would like to know like what's your biggest inspiration behind like what you do and like how you go into crafting a piece. Like, what's your process?
Fabric it always dictate to me what I want to do. I love fabric shopping, and fabric always dictates to me what I want to do. But also, it's the people I surround myself with. Sometimes music tells the story, but it's definitely not the people I surround myself with because they always I have interesting people around me, so they always have something interesting on or something, and I love the people watch. That's also inspiring to me. The people watch because I always try to figure out what made you put this on. Even myself, when I get one, like, what made you want to put this on? So, and they're always inspiring. So I can take something that someone has put on and say, how can I make that work for me? But definitely it's fabric first and foremost. So fabric tells stories, especially prints. Prints always tell a story. And every time you look at a print, it looks different no matter how much you see it. It starts to tell a story, it starts to dance, it starts to move. So I like prints and stuff like that because it dictates where the garment is going. Yeah. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that too because I'm not like really big into fashion. I'm definitely more on like the performing arts side, but I have a very, very grounded respect for people like you. And I also just want to know, you said a lot about how you people watch, and you know that's like a big inspiration for you. Like, does Newark foster a good community for you to people watch, or is it like outside of the state? Is it just that city? Like, what does that look like?
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Mhm.
Newark has a eclectic group of people here too. So not just New York, but Newark does too. But it's always just about it's little things. It's not really the big things. It's the little things that people have made. The way they wrap the scarf around their neck. Why
Mhm.
they paired the colors together. It's little things for me. It's never like the big things. It's always the little things that draw me to a person and what they have on. It's the attention to detail more so than anything. So that draws me to a person, so people watch them and understand where they're going and all that stuff. Because I'm always fascinated by, like I said, how people put things on, what made them match this color with that, what made them put on this shoe with this, what made them put on this jacket. All that stuff is just fascinating for me. It's the little minor details. So, but Nook has a wealth of people and creatives and stuff here, so you can pull something from anybody. I'm always inspired just by walking down the street and just watching anything, and going through the parks and stuff. So it's always inspiring to see somebody.
Absolutely. Has the youth specifically inspired you in any way?
Oh, definitely. You know what? Because now they're not afraid. They're not
Mhm.
nowadays. Everybody's expressing themselves so much, so no one's afraid to put on color, to put on a boy, wearing a dress or a girl wearing a suit. So everyone is expressing themselves completely differently now. So you get to see where we live at in our own hearts, in our own mind, our own creativity. So I like that because I can again pull from that because Newark has a lot of different artists. I see kids walk around here with cameras in their hand, doing little photo shoots on the block in the corner. Girls getting dressed up, boys getting dressed up. So everyone is doing their own thing. So it's nice to see that and be inspired by where that, and it helps me keep my clothes looking youthful and fresh, and not feeling like because I love doing evening wear, very very glamorous stuff. So nice that I can come back down by watching people do real streetwear and all that good stuff by watching what's going on in the streets. So yeah, the kids and the youth is definitely about the street and color and prints and loudness and being uniquely themselves. So I like that.
Wendy asked the question. She said, "Are you wearing a Marco Hall original?"
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, definitely.
It's a gorgeous piece.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a little
I
patchwork moment.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing. Everybody's applause. But, I would also just like to ask, like, I know a couple people also have questions. Guys, by the way, I want to reiterate, we will have a set of 15 minutes at the end of each panelist's kind of moderation with me and Liv for a set of questions to come in. So what is like, I know that you said that the youth also inspires you. Is there any specific fashion designers that you draw inspiration from as well?
Um, well, I've all my when I first started becoming a designer, it was Issey Miyake. He is and still he reigns king for me, Issey Miyake. But I'm in love with Valentino's new creative director. I love Schiaparelli. I've always been fond of Jean Paul Gaultier. So I've always gravitated to artists who thought outside the box and thought that fashion was more art than just fashion, where it kind of crossbred itself. Um, so I've always just loved designers who weren't afraid to express where they were at. Because I truly think you should come from when you design or create anyway, it should come from within. And whatever you want to put out to the universe, you allow them to see who you are. And that's how I try to create all the time. So, yeah. And those designers do that for me.
Absolutely. I love that. I have two
I
more
have.
questions. Oh, do you
Oh,
have a
sorry.
question? Go ahead, Liv. No, you're
Yeah,
totally fine. Please.
this is might be a kind of random one, but do you have any trends that you see in fashion that you are like, oh, that's not a great trend?
Um, Leggings.
Okay. I don't know. I'm
No,
curious.
this leggings, the sagging of the pants. I think that um, I yeah, those are probably the things that really bother me the most. But it says it's your expression. I guess right now we live in a world of comfortability. Everybody wants to be comfortable. Everyone wants because we had 2 years of sitting in the house and everybody learned how to be comfortable. And sweatpants and baggy clothes and stuff made us feel comfortable. So now I feel like we should start getting dressed up again. So I wish the world would go back to getting dressed up again because I think we got a little bit too comfortable and too lax with because of COVID. So, but those are the things that probably bother me the most. Yeah.
Thank you.
And while we still have time, Laisha, if you want to ask your question, you have that space too.
Oh, I wanted to ask if do you find, let's say, getting a degree in fashion, is that like a major advantage, or do you think it's not necessary or required? What do you think is like your genuine advice on that?
Well, I don't have one. I'm self-taught. So, and there's when I was seeking employment, sometime I used to go to my girlfriend job. She worked for a company called SML, and I used to go there all the time. And they loved everything I did, but they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have a degree. So, but they loved my work and they would give me all kinds of fabric and I would create things and bring it back to them. But they just, her boss was just would not hire me again because I didn't have a degree. So it's a gift and a curse. The degree is because if you want corporate work, you want to work in corporate, you want to work in the field, you want to teach, you want to do that. The degree helps that. But I think as a creative, a paper only that you went to school doesn't signify your art and your craft because you become great on your own. And most designers who work are great and were great created on their own. They didn't even go to school, such as the Valentinos, such as um, um, Galliano. These people didn't go to school, Or Jean Paul Gaultier, actually, he came in so he just knew how to design. So, and he became great. So it depends on where you at and where you want to be in your life. If you want to follow the corporate America ladder, if you want to follow your own ladder. So nowadays, it's about just getting sponsors and getting a backing to help you grow your business. So it just depends on what route you want to go in fashion far as degree go.
Do you think you could go more into detail, maybe like in the last 15 minutes? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely round that question back up for you, Laisha,
Okay.
towards the end. But we are at time for your section, Marco. I want to say thank you so much for giving all of that beautiful, gorgeous, great insight and for showing up on camera with this beautiful Marco Hall original piece.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. We will be having
Thank
more
you.
questions for you in the last 15. But without further ado, we're going to move on to Jason Kupperman. Hi, Jason.
I'll take some dressing lessons from Marco.
Okay, so Jason, what is it that you do?
Well, in simplest form, I have a roster of artists, bands who I book their concerts in some instances around the world, in other instances just for North America. So my job it's hard to describe in less than 24 hours, but essentially There's the A&R piece of it, which is finding artists through a variety of different means. And then once I am able to sign those artists, creating strategies, because no two artists are the same, creating strategies to try to build their touring. As a music agent, that's my role. I am primarily focused on a band's or an artist's touring. Things like recording and streaming and publicity, those are different roles within the music industry.
Yes. I love that. It sounds like you work very, very closely with artists. Do you mind like I'm just curious, like what artists specifically do you work with? Are they specifically in New Jersey or are they just kind of like diversified and branched out or like what does that look like?
No, my artists primarily from North America. I have an Israeli artist. I have a couple of Canadian artists. My roster's not very big. I now run my own company. I used to be at a major company. I had more artists then and more bandwidth. Now that I run my own company, I need to make sure I have enough time for my artists. So my roster is relatively small, somewhere in the 14 to 17 artist range. Um, None of them are from New Jersey.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
they run the gamut of genres. For me, it's all about passion.
Hmm.
Um, it sounds cheesy, but I still feel like the same 15-year-old kid who goes to a show and is inspired by a lead singer or by a lyric or by a story. And that's really what moves me. That's how I sign. So I have pop artists, electronic artists, rock, jam. Um, it's really just when I see something that gets me super excited. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. There just isn't a lot on my roster. Marco touched on this about paving your own path.
Hmm.
My artists are all paving their own path. It's harder to build those artists. You're not necessarily riding the coattails of another artist and seeing a path that's already been built and just following along. But I'm a firm believer that the cream rises to the top. And so if you have something that's super unique, really there is no ceiling.
Hmm. Absolutely. Very motivational. I love it. So, in reference to that, because I just want to understand more of your journey, what has your specific artistic journey looked like? Like, how did you start out?
So I kind of fell backwards into it. I'll try and give the brief version. Um, I've always loved music and was, kind of aware of what was going on, but didn't know how to get my foot in the door. And when I went to SUNY Binghamton in upstate New York, and I kind of fell backwards into the role of booking concerts on campus. It's a longer story, but um, I as Marco noted, I learned by doing. Nobody taught
Mhm.
me. And it was very much trial by fire. I failed pretty hard in the beginning, but I'm a firm believer and was taught that if you're going to fail, try and fail fast and fail early. And I picked myself back up and I ended up having some real successes on campus and basically, I wouldn't say begged, but was very persistent about getting my first job. I moved to Monterey, California, to work at a talent agency, a music agency. And I was there for 5 years and stayed within the same company, but I'm from New York and I came back to the East Coast and I worked at that company for a total of 14 years. And then we
Mm.
had the splendid pandemic, and it gave me an opportunity to reevaluate what I was doing, what I liked, what I didn't like, and decided to start my own agency. And it's been the greatest decision. It gives me autonomy to work with who I want to work with. Uh, Pardon my French, but I can be PG about it. I don't have to work with bad people. I could just work with people that I trust and I believe in, and I don't have to put up with a lot of the nonsense. There's still a lot of nonsense in the music industry. But
Mm.
I've been doing that since July of 2020, and it's been awesome.
I love that. I'm also curious in terms of the music industry. I know that you said that, there is bad people and there is that negative side. How do you avoid that and how do you navigate situations where you are put into that?
99 out of 100 times, it's being the bigger person. The
Mhm.
reality is, it is such a small industry built based on a network of relationships. And so negative behavior spreads like wildfire, and you become known for how you respond in situations. You're gonna come across scenarios where there's bad people or you get put in a no-win situation, but just trying to find the best outcome. You know, chances are you may encounter a bad person, but that doesn't mean that's a regular occurrence with that person. You have that encounter, you deal with it, you move on, you try and avoid situations where you're dealing with that individual. But the reality is, because I'm creating my own roster of artists and, I'm working with venues around the country. I mean, you could take New Jersey, for example. There are a ton of different venues to work with. You're not stuck with just one or two options where, you might have an individual who's particularly difficult or is dishonest. The reality is his or her behavior is going to catch up to them eventually. And business is about competition. So if the competition is going elsewhere, they're going to have to change their ways. But really, it's so much about reputation. And so just handling yourself the way that you would want to be viewed. And then really just trying to surround yourself with good people that you trust, who are smart and, who bring ideas to the table and who want to be cohesive to build, you know, artists to their greatest success.
Absolutely. I also just have a question. I know that you mentioned how COVID was a splendid, in quotation marks, time for you. How did that reflect into the music industry? Like, what were the discrepancies or the things that weren't here inside the music industry before COVID?
Well, I am in the business of live gatherings. And
Mm,
so that was a very interesting time when we could not have people come together for the joys of music. We certainly attempted to replace it with things like live streaming and VR. But what I love, and this is the same when I reference that feeling of being that kid in the crowd, there's just nothing that replaces the live experience. And we learned that pretty firmly in the pandemic. And we really tried, and there's still technology that's growing to try and replicate. And we got real close. I have to say, like putting on a pair of headphones or an Oculus, it can feel very real at times. But when we were able to gather again, it hit pretty hard that there's something very special, though live music is a want. For some people, it's a need, but for the most part, it's a want, not a need. Um, but we came back pretty strong once we were able to gather again. There was a major boom in the music industry when we were able to come back together. You would say that, say you had an individual who maybe went to one show a month. That individual went to 3 to 4 shows for those first couple of months coming out of COVID and really
mm.
overcompensated for all that time when we were stuck inside our homes.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of how it was with like, I remember when COVID had like shut down a whole lot of Broadway, and I'm like an extreme theater nerd. So it's like as soon as like all of that happened, I was like, "Ooh, gotta go back." You know what I mean? I think everybody, especially in terms of the arts, because the arts had seen such a downfall inside of COVID, everybody went to overcompensate on that level.
And
So
we tried to get real creative,
yeah,
our drive-in shows and roped off pig pen style shows. I mean, we really threw everything at live music to make it stick. But it
yeah,
became pretty clear once restriction was reduced, there was just a major boom.
yeah. So, Jason, having all of this experience, what would you like? What advice would you give to a young person who's planning on taking the same path as you into the music industry?
So this is why I take part in things like this. Because when I was getting going, I actually had some people extended. I don't know why. I was very stubborn. I didn't want my parents' help, which drove them nuts because after college, I basically went and spent all my money in Europe. And then I came back and was like, I just want to work in live music, which at the time, longer than I care to admit ago, um, record labels, that was the place to get a job. And there were a ton of opportunities with record labels. Now there's a ton of opportunities in live music, and it is actually more difficult with streaming to get a really secure job. at a record label that, there's a trajectory. But I wouldn't interview anywhere except for an agency. And there just were not a lot of opportunities. And my parents were like, let us try and help you. Let us try and like see if we know somebody. And finally, I was like, okay, it was like 6 months in. I was like, okay, you can try to help. And there was this one family relationship. And I got on the call with this person, and no exaggeration, it was 45-second phone call. And the person, you could tell they weren't paying attention. And they go, I don't think this industry is right for you. You should probably choose a different profession. Click. And I
Mm.
was like, who, what? I was like, no, I was like, no way. And for me, that was bulletin board material. I had another like extended cousin at a summer barbecue who worked in film and TV. So not music, but like could pick up the phone potentially. And from the jump, it's just like, this industry is really hard. You should probably pick a different one if you want to be successful. And I was like, when I find myself in a position in the future and somebody, like everybody on this Zoom has taken the time to be here. It's Saturday. It's not even like a school day. And so, you've all taken the time to be here. Those, like anybody who's proactive and is looking for help, I just said I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to go above and beyond for that person because they're clearly showing they're hungry, they want it. And information is not proprietary, and relationships are so crucial in the entertainment industry. And the reality is, it's cheesy to say, but everyone on this Zoom, these are the future leaders. Like, there will come a time when I will collaborate with at least one of you. It will happen. That is how small the industry is. And it takes nothing for me to make a call. It takes nothing for me to have a conversation. And so that's my roundabout way of saying it's 2024. It's so easy to find an email address. And if you, I'm going to stick to like my side of things, which is bands and touring. If you want to be on the road, you can Google tour manager. You can Google production manager. You can go on LinkedIn and find these individuals who are already doing it and just be like, hey, I'm really interested in what you do. Do you think I could buy you a cup of coffee? Or do you think I can have 10 minutes of your time? So, part two of advice is be prepared for the word no and be prepared to be ignored. But the reality is that you really only need a handful of yeses to get to where you're going. You can't have 10 jobs, you can only have one job, two if you're really motivated. To have one internship or two internships, like that's what you're trying for. So it may take a lot of people not responding to email or saying, I don't have the time. Or you get on a call and you could tell they're not giving you the time. But there are a lot of good people in the entertainment industry who have been in your shoes and who want to help. That is, and then the
Absolutely.
other thing is be passionate about what you do. Like that's my favorite part of running my own company. I don't have a CFO looking at my business saying, you showed 6% of growth over the last year. Now you need to show 8% of growth. It's like, I don't care. Like that's not why I wanted to be an agent. One, I want to be an agent because I can't play an instrument. I'm not very good at it. Two, I am so passionate about what people have to say and how they say it. And I love live, like the feeling it gives me inside when I'm at a show. That for me, I don't understand who people who don't like going to shows. So I really encourage, being young. Now's not the time where you have children or you have rent or a mortgage. If you are afforded the opportunity, go after something you're passionate about and you really want to explore. And worst case scenario, you find out you don't like it, and then you could try something else.
Mhm. Absolutely. That was a word, literally. Everybody give a warm hand to Jason. Thank you so much, Jason, for your time. I'm really excited to circle back to you inside of the question portion. So now we will pass it back over to Liv to ask questions to Anna.
Uh, Yeah. So Anna, what is it that you do specifically?
Hi, I'm Anna Maria. I am a graphic designer. Um, I own my own business, just like Jason does. Um, I design all kinds of things. I design social media pieces. I design pieces for events like a conference, like this one, for example, like somebody would hire me to design the background. Um, and all of the materials that go with it, a logo for it, or if it's an in-person and like a face-to-face event, like all the signage, the booths, like the promotional items, everything. I also do infographics. I also design magazines. I design print ads, annual reports, everything.
Yeah,
If it's print or digital, I do it all.
that's
I got sorry.
sorry, I say that's really cool. That's what I'm currently majoring to be able to do after college. So what has that journey been like for you?
Um, it's been mixed. I'll tell you from the beginning, from where I was born, and it's connected, I promise. I was born in Trenton, New Jersey, and my parents broke up when I was 3 months old. Half Costa Rican, half Puerto Rican. So my mother decided to go back to her native Costa Rica, and took me with her. So I was raised there. And there I had an uncle who was a commercial photographer, and this is before Photoshop. So that's where I was introduced to art. And he had a studio in his house. And since there was no Photoshop, everything had to be done, not everything, but most things had to be done before the shoot. So he would shoot for orange juice and Oreo cookies. So they were like makeup artists for the food. They had like food stylists. So it was like a bigger production than it is now. So it was really cool. So I was like, I love this. I want to do this when I grow up. So then when I was 10, my parents reunited, and then I moved back to the US. And I didn't speak English, so school was super hard for me. I went to a school where I was the only person of color, like literally. So no one spoke Spanish. They paired me up with a French teacher to like help me out, and which was more confusing. Um, so the thing I can do was art and math. That was like the only thing that I can like in class participate in, because everything else I was completely lost in. So then I started just taking more art classes. And when I got to high school, I was really interested in photography still. There was a photography class that was offered, and also Votech. Mercer County had a great Votech program it was called commercial art back then. And it had a mix of things, including photography, but it was a very small portion of it. But they did it anyway. And it was great. It was a 2-year program. I went to like high school for half the day and then Tech for the other half. Then after that, I went to Mercer County Community College, where I studied photography, and it was called, I want to say, advertising design. Graphic design wasn't graphic design then, like that's not what it was called. So I was doing both. A lot of the core classes were the same, like drawing, life drawing, painting, color theory, all of that. So it was like it made sense to do both. But then photography started getting really expensive. Like I paid for school myself. I paid for all my supplies. Like the paper was crazy expensive. The film, like all of the supplies were really, really expensive. I couldn't afford it anymore, so I just stayed with the graphic design part. And then from there, I went on to the Savannah College of Art and Design. I went there for 2 years and I graduated with a BFA in graphic design. And then I went back to New Jersey and I got a job. It took me like 3 months to find a job after I got out of college. Um, and I worked for the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. And it was actually, they didn't have a job opening. It was a courtesy interview. Like my mother, I got married really young. I was 22 when I got married. So my mother-in-law knew somebody kind of thing. And they were like, okay, fine, bring her in and we'll just do a courtesy interview. And then during the courtesy interview, the director of marketing was like, you know what? We could use a graphic designer. So they hired me. So my pay was really low because they didn't really have budget because the position didn't exist. But I grew my position there. There was just me. I was the only designer, but I got promoted and had more responsibilities. And then from there, my husband and I decided that we wanted to move to Washington, D.C. because we went there a few times and we liked it. So we didn't have kids or anything, so we had lots of freedom. So we went to Washington, D.C. I got a job working in an association. I didn't really know what associations were. I didn't know it was like a whole industry. But that's what I worked for. I worked for the association for people who work in associations.
Yeah.
That's a thing. And I designed their magazine. So I designed their magazine and their supplements. And again, that was a job that was kind of like, it was modified for me because the job was for a production manager. And I didn't really know what a production manager was, to be honest. But they really like my design portfolio. So then decided to make it like designer/production manager. So I learned how to do the production manager during the job. Like I just figured it out what I had to do. But then I designed their magazine and supplements and managed the production process. And I did that for 12 years. And then my husband and I decided to move to Mexico. Because we went on vacation and it was awesome and let's do it. So we did. So I had to quit my job because this was before COVID. So remote work was not acceptable. But then they were like, hey, can you help us finish out this last issue? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then they were like, can you help with the next one and the next one? And can you just freelance for us? So I was like, okay. So I just stayed working for them while I was in Mexico. But then during the pandemic, we moved back to the US. My daughter has dyslexia, and we couldn't find any school around where we lived that was providing the education she needed. So we moved back to the US. And then the magazine that I was working on went under because during COVID, they just lost too much money and they couldn't survive. But the same association picked me up as a freelancer to work in their marketing department. So then I started working on events for them, designing for events. And then I just kind of got another client and then another client and then another client. And I never really looked for any. It was just like, hey, I heard you were working on this thing. I heard you were working on that thing. We need help here. We need help there. So I started growing to a point where I couldn't do the work by myself anymore. So I hired a designer. She lives in Mexico. It's remote. It's all remote. And then last year I grew more. So then I hired another designer. She's in Colombia. So yeah, that's my journey.
That's a really cool journey. You mentioned design portfolio. What would you recommend would be on a design portfolio for someone looking to take a similar path?
I would say save absolutely everything. Save all your work. Save the stuff that you consider junk. Save everything. Because you might go for a scholarship and they might require you to show something with typography, and you're like, oh, I don't know that I have much stuff with typography. So go back to your old work, or maybe you repurpose a piece you had. Like it will be a good start, and then you modify it to fit what it is that you need. I save everything because in my portfolio, if you go to my website, I only have the things that I consider to be the nicest. But sometimes the client's like, hey, I need signage for a conference. I don't see anything like that in your portfolio. So I go back through my old pieces and I send them samples. So save absolutely all of your work.
Awesome, thank you. And what would be the biggest advice you could give to a young person who's looking to take a similar path?
Similar to what Jason said, don't like find someone or find people to connect to. Like right now, Alicia wants to know more about fashion design. Connect with Marco after. Just send him a note and be like, hey, I'm sure Marco would be like, yes, let's chat. Let me tell you more. We like to share information as humans, and we like to help others when we can. So I say make those connections. That's really important to make connections.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, yes. And now I think it's time for Italy with, I don't know, Ricardo.
Yes. Thank you so much, Anna. Can everybody give a warm hand to Anna for that beautiful journey? So Ricardo Watson, I'm very, very excited to talk to you because I read your little bio and I was like, ooh, wow, interesting love. So if you could just share with everyone, what is exactly that you do?
Okay. So I am a recording engineer and a dialogue editor. I work on currently, I record and edit for a show called Rick and Morty on Adult Swim. And then also I record for Solar Opposites, which is a Hulu show. So my job is essentially as a dialogue editor, I create radio plays. So I take the script that the writers do, and then I turn it into an audio format of the show. And then, which is pretty much like the show without the animation. And then I'll sit with like the writer and the showrunner, and then we'll review it. And then if they approve it, it goes to the artist. The artists draw to like all the sound effects and stuff I did, and then it goes back to them. They review it with Harmon and the writers and stuff, and then after that, like they'll do like a rewrite process. And then also, I recording wise, I obviously just I record the dialogue that goes into the show, but also my job as the dialogue editor is to put the dialogue into the show myself, and then we'll do another review process with that where we like watch down the episodes and do pickups before we ship it out to get animated. And yeah, that's essentially what I do now.
I'm sorry. I'm so flabbergasted, and I'm sure I saw a lot of faces lit up when you said Rick and Morty because that's like very much like a youth tailored show, especially for us
Yeah.
now. Like I saw Liv, like her like mouth was literally just like agape and dropped because I know Liv, like I think Liv is like obsessed with Rick and Morty as well as like
Okay.
Erica. So that's like so cool. By the way,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm just very curious, like, how did you get into that? How did you find that? Was there like a trail or did you just, you know,
Yeah, there was a trail. I can give you my origin story if you want.
yes,
So it all
please.
started. No, but I used to live in New Jersey. I went to a school called Rancocas Valley. It's like in Mount Holly, New Jersey.
Yeah, familiar.
So when I was in school, I actually wanted to be an artist, like with drawing. And then I pivoted because I really got into making music. There was some game that I found called MTV Music Generator, and it would let you like make songs and stuff with loops. And I really got into it, and then I just got really passionate about making music. And then I was like, well, let me try to get into the music industry. Like I didn't have like musical talent, so I was like, well, how can I get into the industry without musical talent? And then I found, audio engineering. So I ended up, I was going to go to school in Florida to a school called Full Sail. But then I started dating this girl that wanted to come to California to be a writer. And I ended up coming to California with her, and I went to school out here. And then when I went to school for music, I like realized that I wasn't really feeling like the music thing. So I ended up getting an internship at it was like a voiceover studio, but it was like in some actor's backyard. So like, but that introduced me to like the whole voiceover industry, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like I didn't know that people voice these characters, even though it makes sense. And then I eventually got another internship at a studio called Bang Zoom. And so I was doing two internships and going to school at the same time. And then eventually I became close with an engineer at Bang Zoom. He knew that I really wanted to have a successful career, so he kind of took me under his wing and started teaching me and having me record and stuff like that. And then eventually he left the studio to go work at Riot Games on League of Legends, and then I ended up like stepping up, and like my goal was to take his position because he was like their top tier guy. So I just worked really hard. He was really fast, so I was like, I'm gonna be faster than him. And then eventually, like, I just became known as like the fastest, most efficient person, like not only at the studio but just like around, like a lot of directors would say that to me. I'm not gonna say that I was, but in my heart and brain, I think I was the fastest and most efficient. But yeah, and then actually started working on Rick and Morty, just recording it at my job. So I've been on the show since season one, and then um, yeah, eventually I became close with like the producer and like one of the creators of the show, Justin, the guy that voiced Rick and Morty. And you know, but before that, I was recording other stuff like anime and video games and animation and stuff like that. And I was doing cast records, which is anywhere from 3 to 12 actors in the booth at one time, and then we would just like record the script, and I would just kind of like mute and unmute their mics and mix them and stuff like that. It was really fun, and yeah. So then eventually, I got offered the job at Rick and Morty, and I took it, and yeah, now I'm there full time.
Wow.
That's the story.
Wow. Wow. Sorry, my mouth is like my jaw's because I really enjoy that show. As far as that, like, I know that you said that you kind of got into this through internships through college. I know that me and Liv also on the council are, I think we're the only college students. And I'm just like curious, how did you balance out 2 internships with college at the same time? Like,
Well,
how did that work?
so I went to a technical school. I
Mhm.
did go full time. So essentially, my school it had night classes. So I would do a full 8 hours at my internship, and then literally go from there to school. And then on the weekends, they were 8 hour days of school. So Monday through Friday, it was really hard because I literally couldn't get any sleep and I had no personal
Yeah.
time. So like Monday through Friday, I was either at one internship or the other, working like an 8 hour shift, and then at nighttime at school. And then the weekends was like our lab days. So like it'd be like a full 8 hour day, like, learning all the technical stuff like with the
Mhm.
equipment.
Yeah.
So it was pretty brutal. I'm not gonna lie, but in the end, it was worth it. Like I'm a really hard worker, and I feel like the energy you put into your craft, like the results you get, are gonna be amazing because there are people that don't put in the work, and there are people that put in the work, and the people that put in the work are the ones that kind of rise to the top with like success. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is like the ongoing theme of today that we're discovering throughout the panel is the importance of perseverance and like truly like being driven by your passion. So
yeah.
as far as that, Ricardo, what do you think would be your advice to like young artists who are wanting to step inside your shoes and do something as cool as be the dialogue editor for Rick and Morty, which is but yeah.
um, I would say um I wouldn't say school is necessarily as important, but it's definitely good to go to just because like you'll network with people that are in the same industry as you. Um, that's like the most important part is networking, and pretty much once you get your foot in the door, which is either through like an internship or through a recommendation from a friend or like another audio person or editor, then you're good to go. But definitely like I'd say pretty much what like Jason was saying, how like even my industry is really small, even with like all the actors and stuff like that. Because like a lot of my friends are actors because I work with actors all the time, and just like anything that happens within the industry, like people know, and if you're a horrible person, nobody's gonna want to work with a horrible person, and they're gonna know that you're a horrible person. So I would just say, just help people when you can. Be like, treat people the way you would want to be treated. And yeah, networking is like definitely the most important part for sure, because those people like your friends and stuff that end up getting like say a job at like a big company, they'll push to get you hired at that company, or they'll help you. Like I had a friend that like when I was working on music, he we would just kind of sit with each other, and he'll play me his music, I'll play him his music, and we just kind of like it kind of kept our momentum going with like just our craft and stuff like that. So, if you're with like-minded people, you'll do the same thing and you'll just get better. But yeah, I'm rambling. So.
No, we appreciate it. We love it. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for your time. Everybody give a warm round of applause for Ricardo. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to Liv to talk to Leica.
Hi, Leica. What is it that you do exactly?
Hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you all for being here. It's so beautiful to see so many of you. My name is Laika Nuna Yawar. That is my artist name. I am an artist. I make art out of anything and everything. I'm also a muralist, or let me make the definition of that a little bit different. So an artist, we are all artists. We all create meaning out of our emotions, out of the things that come out of our heads. I do it professionally, quotation marks, professionally. And what I end up making with that sort of drive to make art is make murals. So I make public art. I make large scale murals around cities, around the world. And a lot of the times what I do with that mural work is amplify the voices of people like myself, people of color, people that might not be heard in the environment that they live in. And I'm also an educator. So I teach at Rutgers University. And here you can see some of my work. So this is a mural I've made in Newark, New Jersey. I'm talking to you from my apartment in Newark, New Jersey. And yeah, I think that's what encapsulates what I do. I make art, I make murals, and I educate. So hi, nice to be here.
Thank you. That's a lot of really cool things. How did you exactly get to the point where you're making murals, doing a bunch of different arts, and educating all at the same time?
Well, that's interesting, right? Because like I said, I think we all start as artists. We all start as creative people and creative beings. We always need to create. We always need to be felt and understood. And we're always doing it as children. We're drawing with crayons and pencils and color pencils. I'm lucky enough that I never had to stop. I kept doing that. I kept making art with whatever mediums I would have around me. I'm an immigrant from Ecuador. I came to the US when I was 14. I grew up in Ecuador. And I grew up in a little town that's like a colonial jewel. It's Cuenca, Ecuador. There's tons of art there, tons of public art. So this idea of art making was always something that I appreciated and that I saw as possible for me in my life, right? To be an artist, to make things in public space. Then I came to the US and I am literally just an immigrant. My family, I have some first generation nephews and nieces, but I am just like landed here when I was 14. So a lot of what that turned out to be for me is pressure to excel or pressure to survive, and all the also psychological traumas that come with that. Having to be one of the youngest English speakers in my family, meaning that I had to translate tons of documents or take on all of these responsibilities. That meant me helping my family, but like taking it all onto myself. All of those sort of complexities become part of my artwork and become the reason why I make things in public space. At the moment, I didn't know that. I can see that now as an adult and like thinking about my life. But a lot of those things gave way to the reasons why I make these murals, like the one that you're looking at here. So long story short, I came here to New Jersey. I studied at Rutgers University. I studied to be a painter, but I never saw myself represented in the art world or really saw myself as being part of a gallery system or a museum system. And I know I'm telling you this now, and we're talking about education, but that is my my path, I saw no way of me being part of that. So what I ended up doing is I became an English teacher in South Korea, and that was just like what I needed to survive, to like pay the bills. And when I was there, I started sort of experimenting with making things outside, and I made them illegally. I made graffiti and wheat pastes and started making murals in abandoned spaces. And so in about 5 years of me doing that, it went from me finding this as an expression of freedom, of trying to bring art to people on the streets, to me being able to do it in community with different organizations. For example, working with the city of Newark, working collaborative in workshops, coming up with the ideas together, painting the murals together, to making this work that is not just about me, but is about a group of people and it's about a group of stories. And that took a while, you know, like I'm telling you this now, it's like the brief version, but it took a long time for me to find my voice and to find my place in this crazy world of just existing and being, but also in a world that was expecting me to survive. You know, we live under capitalism and we see all the ailments of that and we see all the good things that it might bring you. I speak about that, you know, coming from a country that right now it's struggling with literally keeping the lights on. There are short electricity to like schedule blackouts in Ecuador at this moment, into this world of sort of extremes, right? In the US, we can have lots of wealth and lots of poverty. So I bring that up too because it's what my artwork deals with, is what I deal with as a person. And I think as an artist, it really is our job to sort of be mirrors to society. So if you're an artist now, I'm sorry, but like you just are. I can, um, I, I feel happy for you, but also feel like it comes with a lot of responsibility and power, but it's also a sort of journey that you have to find out on your own. Um, and Liv, I think you were going to ask me about suggestions for how to go into this path.
Yeah.
I might be jumping the gun here, but I'm going to say what I just explained to you is my experience. I don't recommend you go around doing illegal artwork like I did. Recommend that you go around finding your own way and finding your voice, which is the most important thing. You know, I'm also like telling you that part of my story because, you know, I didn't have the means. I didn't have a support system. And I had to find ways to survive through that. But you might probably have a different situation, right? So you should lean into your support systems and you should lean into really what gets you out of bed in the morning. Because when I was, you know, traveling Asia with only 2 pairs of jeans and a t-shirt because I wanted to make art in Taipei and I had, you know, very little money, what kept me going was that I wanted to make this artwork and see it come to life. Um, and there's a passion in there and there's like a desire of like seeing the world that didn't exist before I brought it into being. So for me, what I get most excited about is to see that world that you, the next generation, Gen Zers that I love, can create. So your voice is super, super, super important. And I'm very, very excited to see what you make. So please follow that voice wherever it takes you.
That's a really powerful. Thank you so much. It sounds a lot like I was in the Artivism workshop, and do you think Artivism is a part of what you're trying to do?
Yes, and I have a little problem with the term only because I've worked with many activists, and I think that their work is super hard or wonderful and amazing. So I see myself as part of the ecosystem. You know, artists,
Yeah.
like I said, we can help amplify a message. But activists, you know, they're putting themselves in the front lines. They're they have roles. Some of them go to jail. Some of them are lawyers. Some of them um, are good at organizing community. So we all have our parts to play. And I understand activism from that perspective, but I also have a lot of respect for organizers and activists to call myself an activist. I help amplify voices, and I know my role in that system. Um, and yeah, and I think, when you are a person in this world, your existence is political. For me to, have this face and this wonderful indigenous profile in this country that's funded by slavery and is funded in genocide in this world and today is a political act. So for me to exist, for me to like make art, for me to make something that's beautiful, in my perspective, is a political act. Um, and it's not like the most epic political thing you could ever do, but I think it's important for us to see that and accept it and celebrate it. That for you to make your art, it can be political. It doesn't literally mean that you have to make a protest piece. Just you making the art world that you want to see is a political act. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a great talk. And I'm going to go over to Italy with Carrie Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody give a warm round of applause. As much you're also receiving so much love inside the chat. I just want to let you know, especially about like your murals. They are gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. I love them, and when I go back home, I definitely will be looking for them. So without further ado, I'll move on with Carrie and Simone Munoz, who I'm so excited to talk to. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks everyone for having me.
Of course. So, Carrie Ann, tell us, what is it exactly that you do?
I am the Director of Dance Education for Dance New Jersey. Dance New Jersey is the state affiliate of the National Dance Education Organization. We create opportunities for the New Jersey dance community to connect, learn, and share resources to keep dance thriving in New Jersey. So we work with all the professionals in the dance community, so K through 12 educators, higher ed, teaching artists, choreographers, and professional companies. And in that, specifically in my role, I coordinate the Dance to Learn program, which is funded by the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation. And the program aims to advance dance education in public and private elementary schools to promote equitable dance experiences for historically excluded and systematically marginalized populations. So yes, through that grant funding, we're able to award 9 grantees each year to implement 12-week residencies in elementary schools, 2nd to 5th grade to be exact. And then also within my role, which is kind of my favorite, is building the workshop leader portfolio for our annual festival, which is now called J Fest, and our fall professional development. So last year we worked with Jason Samuel Smith, Black renowned famous tap dancer. And February 3rd was D&J Fest, which we worked with a number of artists, Bollywood with Shanaz, West African with Karen Love, founder of Emoja Dance, and then specifically Rennie Harris, who is your hip hop guru, and Daryl McDaniels, who's DMC of Run DMC. So it was a huge event with 200 plus people, teachers bust in their students. It was just so fun and definitely like a core memory of my career.
Well, that's beautiful, and my jaw has dropped even more, and I don't know how. So I'm assuming, considering that you kind of oversee this entire system that is funded, that you were a dancer at some point or are a dancer, choreographer, something like that. So tell us about your artistic journey.
Yes, this fun story. As I was thinking about how to put it all in a nutshell. So yeah, growing up, I grew up in Miami, Florida. Growing up, the first thing my mom did, which is, what mothers tend to do to try to, put their kid where, okay, this is what they want to do, this is what they're good at. She put me in a dance studio, which cool. And my artistic journey began kind of later and not really in my early childhood. I was a dancer. It was natural. I gravitated toward it. It was my thing. But I was also that what they now call a multi hyphenate, where it was just like, I don't want to just do this. I don't want to just
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
kind of like, oh my gosh, where am I going to take this? So, um, after graduating high school, dancing all my childhood, I was accepted into Penn State, where I studied integrative arts, which allowed me to explore various dance genres. Um, I was a dancer, but I wasn't particularly pulled to majoring in dance because I did always know after performing for, several hip hop artists and modern companies, different things, I was like, I didn't have a degree doing that. Why do I need to get a degree to do that? To go back to what Marco, correct, Paul,
Yeah.
said about, there's several different ways to climb the ladder, and it's all about, being strategic how you want to do it. But a degree is definitely something that's beneficial, so I'm not discouraging it at all. However, if you know in dance specifically, if you know you want to be a K-12 dance teacher or a higher ed teacher, then it's a requirement. So you would know particularly the path you want to take. Anyhow, I ended up coming home from Penn State for personal family reasons, and I ended up back at the drawing board, and I went to Miami-Dade College, which in my head at the moment was very much like, oh my gosh, I ended up at the local community college. Like my life has hit rock bottom, right? But it actually was the door into truly recognizing my identity as a dancer because it led me to who was my professor and now my mentor and now my kid's like favorite auntie. Um, her name is Michelle Grant Murray. She's the director of the dance program at Miami-Dade College. She's also the creative director and founder of Alujimi Dance Theater. And I studied under her for 3 years and, in all the technical forms, but specifically the African diaspora and modern Dunham techniques. And Catherine Dunham was the first to combine dance movements of Caribbean and African cultures within European style. And as an American born, but of Jamaican descent, that is really started to connect to my dance identity. Dance studio owners in the 90s, which is when I was a baby growing up, dance studios are predominantly owned by white women. So they could not offer, it never really, I was the dancer and it was like, oh, you're great, but it wasn't truly connecting to my spirit. And that's why I always had this like confusion of like, do I want to dance? But I wasn't being taught from a lived experience that helped me find my identity and connect to dance the way I am connected now. So then, as life does, it throws you curveballs. So after traveling and performing for 3 years, I earned my dance ed associate's degree from Miami-Dade College, and then I was also becoming a mother. So for whatever reason, becoming a mother at the time, I mean, again, that's a curveball, but for some reason it resonated with me as stop dancing. I don't know why. And and motherhood is an addition to who we are. It's not what we are. And I know that now, right? So at that moment, what spoke to me was, all my life I took an interest in fashion. I drew and designed my homecoming dresses, my prom dresses. I knew the local seamstress and she made all of my pieces. And like, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this on. Like I've done dance to the core. I'm going to do this. And then I got accepted into Miami International University of Art and Design and majoring in fashion merchandising. Fast forward, I completed my internship in Canada with Derek Dragodzinski. I ended up in Canada. That's a whole other story. But I received my BFA and worked in the industry as a manager for both Ann Taylor and Michael Kors. This is kind of where my art journey collided in visual and performing arts. At this point, I was a mother of a 4-year-old. I only have 2 children. Sorry. I was a mother of a 4-year-old, but I was missing dance. And at this point, I kind of like took a break. I was unemployed for like, I don't know, a 4 month season. And I ended up colliding with um, an old dance acquaintance's member who was the principal of my son's school. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, like I really want a dance program here. Like, can you do it? Like, you have it." And I was like, "Really?" And then all of a sudden, like the wheels started turning, and I took my ability in visual art and my degree in fashion merchandising to brand and template and present this like packaged business for a school board to, appeal to. And there it went. 7 years down the road, I developed a thorough dance curriculum for elementary school students and after school dance academy to community K through 12 administrators and school board officials, and it's called an introduction to formal dance training. More than 20 schools across South Florida. And in that, I recruited all of my dance network who were looking for teaching gigs, and assigned them to different schools, and put on annual showcases, semi-annual showcases for training production. So that's where my visual artistry to make, you know, mold this dance business look presentable and attractive to schools in addition to costuming as well and theming production. And my love and my knack for business and sales allowed me to launch this. And then boom, COVID came at all. Um, so that was definitely, I'm sure, an experience all of us as artists had no choice but to endure. Simultaneously, at the same time, my husband accepted a position at Rutgers, which is what brought me to New Jersey. As I got settled down here, I, you know, kind of was like nervous. I didn't know the New Jersey dance landscape. I was trying to get familiar and I picked up the phone and I called Rutgers University, and spoke to Frederick Curry from the Mason Gross School of the Arts. And he was like, "You should get connected with Dance New Jersey. Like they have everything that you're looking for." And then I did. I signed up for their newsletter. And then all of a sudden, like a month later, they were like, "Oh, Director of Dance Education position open. Apply now." And voila, here I am. So little did I know that although my business didn't last forever, it would lead me to a position where I'm able to see the whole dance community from this lens and find ways to bring us all together while still being able to, through grant funding, plant dance residencies within elementary schools. So it's almost like I'm doing the same thing that my business did, but New Jersey does a great job at funding the arts versus Florida. So I did it for profit in Florida, and now I'm doing it nonprofit in New Jersey. So that's my story.
Wow. Daryl said the art of a good pivot. No, really. I just want to say, like, I think that that entire story really does encapsulate what it means to be a multi hyphenate and how, like, you don't have to separate all your paths and how they can all come into one. So, you having that experience, what advice would you give to youth that wants to take a step into your path?
Um, I would definitely say hindsight is always 2020. If I knew then what I know now, I would have moved differently. There were so many moments where I doubted my path. I was dodging obstacles left and right. There was motherhood, and I wasn't confident about my identity as an artist and a businesswoman. And then, we have that like imposter syndrome and stuff. And then like now where I see, I still, we still, we all have ways to go. We're all still growing, right? But I didn't trust that it would eventually all make sense. And I'm still on that journey today. And as I look back, again, hindsight is 2020, I can confidently say, trust the process. So trust the process.
Well, absolutely. I think, especially after hearing your story, we're all willing to trust the process. So, thank you so much for your time, Carrie Ann. We really, really appreciate you. Everybody, give a warm round of applause for Carrie Ann. And now I'm going to pass it over to Liv for our final speaker.
Hi guys. Hi Daryl. That you're our final speaker. Congrats. But what is it that you do specifically?
I am an actor, director, and choreographer. I'm a musical theater person. And so since I'm a musical theater person and I'm the last person, I'm going to give you my 32 bars. And if anyone is in musical theater, they know what the 32 bars are. So here are my 32 bars. Believe that you can fly. Believe you can make time stand still. And know from the moment you try, if you believe, I know you will. Believe in yourself right from the start. Believe in the magic inside your heart. Believe what you feel, not what life told you to. Just believe in yourself as I believe in you. That's what I do.
Very good. That was very good. I like that. Um, have what has your artistic journey been like with all of these different things that you do?
Well, my journey has been like most people's journey, right? It has been a meandering path of many different things. I started out as a kid in New Jersey in Union who loved to sing and act. And I came from a working class family, so not necessarily able to like go to Broadway Dance Center or pay for private voice lessons. And so my entryway into training for the arts was through arts education. So I went to Paper Mill, I went to NJPAC, and that's how I got started. And then from there, I kind of moved through working as an actor and a performer, which took me into teaching artist work. I went to Benedict College, which is the HBCU in South Carolina, then had to transfer and winded up at NYU. Um, and so I started doing teaching artist work, which took me to the All Stars Project and NJPAC and Luna Stage and Institute of Music in Elizabeth. And then that took me into more performing and eventually directing and producing, which is what I do now.
Awesome. That's a really cool journey. Italy goes to NYU, so I'm sure she was happy to hear that. What has been you saying that like you got your start through arts education? How would you say your experience with that was in the state of New Jersey? You're on mute.
Sorry, New Jersey is fabulous, right? Because like Carrie Ann said, most states don't support their arts and culture sector the way that we are afforded in New Jersey. So like I said, it was my gateway. I would not have been able to pursue a career in the arts and cultural sector without the support of different programs. And I believe Sanaz, who was here earlier and who gave a workshop, was actually one of my first kind of mentors and teachers in arts education. So that goes to show you how intergenerational this work is and how important it is. But it's been really transformative and it's really, really important. So that's why it was so important for me. I immediately said yes to being here today, and I'm glad that I did.
We are so glad to have you. What kind of advice would you give to a younger person looking to go down a similar path as you?
Buckle up. Buckle up. Because everything that you plan will not happen, and you will need to have the stomach that it takes to do this kind of work. Things will happen, things will shift, challenges will arise. I believe someone was talking earlier about the different types of personalities that we have in arts and culture. You'll have to deal with a lot of that as well. It is not the kind of safe sailing that maybe other careers sort of offer, but it is definitely the most colorful and interesting in my opinion, right? I cannot see myself doing anything else, which is why I do the work that I do. So I would just say buckle up and be prepared. Don't be unrealistic about what it looks like, what it will take, what you will have to sacrifice. like Saturdays, and be willing to do that and know that the reward for that, right, is that you will be living and working and creating in your passion, which is not something that a lot of people who maybe do other things will say so directly.
How would you recommend becoming more realistic about how it's going to go?
Research is really important to me, right? Because I'm an actor, I'm trained as an actor, right? And so actors, they research, right? They read a lot, they watch films, they watch YouTube, they go to the library, that old building wherever you are that a lot of people don't go. There are a lot of gems and tools there. So I would say start with research and make sure that your research is robust and that you have a sense of what you want to go into, what you're getting into, what will it take, how much will it cost, where will you need to live. All of those things you'll have to take into consideration. I think that's a really great place to start.
Yeah, and then Italy's wondering, did you go to NYU for acting?
I went to NYU for liberal arts. So I actually went to Gallatin, and I was a liberal arts major. So similar again to what Carrie Ann was saying, I studied different things, not just acting. I studied writing, I studied directing, I studied religion, I studied poetry, and all of those things kind of inform my work.
Yeah, and earlier you were talking about, I'm making it wrong, but the paper mill. What is that?
So Paper Mill Playhouses are state theaters in Milburn. And they also have a lot of arts training programs. We'll drop a link in the chat, but they're definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, thank you. Italy, do you have any questions?
So right now, what we can do, since we're at 2:22, we can open up our panelists to all questions from the entire meeting. So if you guys have questions, you guys are free to unmute and voice them to our talented and beautiful panelists, or also inside the chat. And me and Liv will kind of be the voice for those, if not, if they're in a chat.
I
Hi.
have sorry.
You can go.
Sorry. I have one question for Leica. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
You got it.
Okay. Did your art change with the transition from coming from Ecuador to the US?
Yeah, and I came to the US when I was 14. So, I had a lot to learn. I didn't even have an idea of what art was or what I wanted to do or make. Um, so I became a person in New Jersey. So I'm very influenced by this, by us. But what it took me a long time to understand that doesn't mean that I'm not part of a legacy of being Ecuadorian or being from South America, that I cannot separate that from who I am, and that I am 100% from the US and I am 100% from Ecuador. So I don't have to divide myself in two. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my work now, just to understand it and to understand my history, my legacy. Not only do I have a history of radical educators that mentored me and made me who I am in New Jersey, but also have a history of radical people and indigeneity that comes from Latin America and from Ecuador. So that's what my art is looking at, like how to live in those two worlds. And it changes all the time. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
I also had another question for you. I was wondering, how do you find jobs painting murals? And do people see your portfolio and normally reach out to you, or do you have to reach out to them first?
So I started using Flickr. How many of you know Flickr? It's a website from the early 2010s. But yeah, it was basically the social media from the beginning. I made a lot of friends through that. I use Instagram, made tons of friends through Instagram. There's a community that you can become part of. Some of the suggestions from other panelists have been to reach out to people be a nice person, always be a good person, and just like have conversations, connect to people, because that's where the opportunities come from. When I started making murals, I started from that idea of believing that we needed more art in public space. So I would go out to like my local bodega and ask them if I could make a mural there, or ask friends who own buildings if I could do something, or find some place that was open to have me make a mural. And then that example can lead you to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. And then what you're doing is building a history or a portfolio of your work, and then that will help you get to the next level. And so through all those projects, I kept getting better at what I was doing, but I was also building that history of art making. And then people would reach out to me because they knew that I made murals, or organizations would be looking for people that could apply to grants or to do all these other things. Businesses would also reach out to me, and it's slowly, step by step, a sort of snowball effect. So now I kind of get asked to become part of projects, or if I'm really interested, then I can apply to get fellowships or grants to make the murals that I want to make. So it's been a little bit of a back and forth, but I will say again, just get going, just get started. If you're thinking of mural making, all you need is 2 colors, black and white, and 1 brush, and you can make a mural. And I don't want you to think that is a very hard thing. Everybody can do this. Everybody can draw. Everybody can practice. So if you ever have any questions about that, also message me. I put my Instagram in there. I would love to answer any questions. But yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you so much. I'll follow you.
So I know that Laisha had unmuted for a bit, so I'll let you take the floor on your question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Marco Hall if what would be the best way to, let's say, improve your technique in like sewing in general, because you said that you were self-taught, or designing.
Well, I think practice make perfect. I believe like you want go to thrift stores and take stuff apart, like garments apart, and put it back together just to see the mechanics of it. That's how I kind of learned to take things apart and put them back together just to learn the mechanics. If you can afford or learn the measures of the body. My thing was learning the measurements of the body, like the bust, from the measurement from the neck to the waist, from the waist to the hip, all that. I learned that, and I kind of, that's like in my head, so I can do off the top of my head of figuring out what the body looks like, the shape of the body. And so I think it's more just like practice make perfect. Take things apart, play with different fabrics that you that might intrigue you. Start with simple kinds that's cheap, and then cut from there. It's like just and if you can't find a simple pattern and use that pattern, and that pattern can take you to everything. It can lead you to a lot of different things from that one pattern. Just basically learning the measurements. I'm keen on my measure tape. My measure tape is my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my friend. It's everything, because it's like learning numbers and learning, like I said, the shape of the body and the measures of the body, from, like I said, from the neck to the waistline, from the waist to the hip line, from the hip to the floor. So it's like just figuring those things out and then knowing the proportions, and you go from there. So that's how I learned, and that's how I practice every day, learning the measurements and all that stuff to improve my work.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask, like, going into fabrics, where would you say is like the best affordable place to go? Like either in dead stock fabrics, or like any place that you think would be like the best to go?
Well, if you want very easy fabrics right now for fun, you go to Walmart. You can go right to Walmart and Target. They have fabric stores because they have very inexpensive fabrics there that you can play with. Or you go to one of your little local fabric stores that don't really carry high-end fabrics, so you can find a few cottons and stuff like $2 or $3 a yard. And like I said, those are things you can play with, and which we consider your muslin, till you figure out the fabrics that you really want to play with to make that pretty garment that you really, really want, or something like that. So you can find just your local store. You go, like I said, go to March, go to Target, go to Hobby Lobby, those places who sell fabrics that's very inexpensive, and work from there.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to voice some questions that we have in the chat. One of them, and any of the panelists can ask, can answer one of these. What advice do you have in regards to managing finances as an artist, especially since income can come from many avenues or doesn't always flow steadily? And that's from J. Martha.
I'm happy to answer this. Um, I would say that, again, going back to research, when you're thinking about how you're going to kind of craft your creative way forward or your artistic way forward, I always say have three buckets, right? One bucket is your operational expenses. One is sort of your emergency, and then one is your bucket where you invest and kind of play around. So I at all times have at least three projects, whether they are performance-based, directing-based, curatorial, teaching, there are always at least three projects because as we learned with the pandemic, sometimes a project can go away and you need to have other forms of income coming in. For young people just starting out, a great way to start to earn money is to volunteer to assist or serve as an associate or assistant for someone who is working. For example, if I wanted to get into fashion, I might email Marco and say, hey, could I potentially work as cleaning up and helping around your shop for a few hours a week for, I don't know, $100 per day or something like that, just so that you can get the experience and start to get the income going in. And then once you get one designer, you ask him for a recommendation and you get a second.
And I would like to add, there's a fourth bucket, and that fourth bucket is for your taxes. Pay your taxes.
Yes.
Because when you're freelance, you pay a bit more in taxes. I think it's like 40%. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, just keep that in mind because that's something that I had to learn very early in my career that I wasn't aware of when I first started out. But yeah, taxes are very important to put your money to the side for because the IRS will take your shoes, your socks. They don't care.
Good
They want their money.
advice. Great
I'll also
advice.
say, find a
Yeah.
tool that you can use to track all your expenses. It's great to see it written down and for you to monitor that. Although we don't want to I forgot his name. Is it Zuckerman? Who said, it's not about beating your last year because it's your passion, but you do want to see what you're producing. You want to make sure that, it's making sense. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to go a little bit on that.
Yeah.
You can just get a regular like a full-time job and then you're just an employee, right? Like I did that for many years. So there's different ways of doing it. But if you are freelancing, um, about the taxes thing too, like set up an LLC, so that then your taxes will be lower. And the government has business development offices in every state. And these offices help you set up your LLC for free.
I love that comment. I was gonna say LLCs as well, but also look into contracts, especially for labor and time. And always, 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 always charge a lot of money because your time is worth it. And it took me a long time to get there, but you're a specialist. Nobody has your voice. You should charge a lot of money for what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then there's
Absolutely,
another.
yeah. Charge a lot. And you can also do like go back to the contracts. You can do like retainers. So like I have many clients and some are like project by project, others are retainers. So they pay me X amount of money every month for up to 8 social media pieces, up to X. So you can have different arrangements with different clients at the same time so that okay, at least I'm gonna make X amount of money because I have this contract with this one client.
Very, very good advice and resources.
Yeah.
So thank all of you.
We also have a question for Carrie Ann.
Yeah.
How do you suggest people our age to get involved in leadership in dance and dance education?
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Gaia. He was one of our Governor's Awards winners. Woo! So I would definitely recommend, especially in high school, I did the same thing, was start teaching. They're going to put you with the babies and you're going to learn how to deal with these lovely children. And then you start to exercise your ability to communicate with students, and communicating with students in a studio and communicating with students in a non-studio setting, like in a school, are completely different. In schools that are in at-risk communities that don't have your perfectly marleyed floored with mirrors, they have no, you're in the cafeteria. So, you know, I would definitely start finding those teaching gigs, whether it be at your local dance studio. If you're a senior in high school, they usually employ you maybe like after 16 years old. I don't know if I'm speaking as a Floridian in that case, because I wasn't that age here in New Jersey. But working at your local dance studios, interning. Dance New Jersey has biannual internship opportunities. Those are great ways to get into the community, get out there, get your name known. What else? What else? What else? I would say continue to audition, do mock auditions. I'm not sure, Jaya, if you were at J&J Fest, but we had our mock auditions for high school. So it was first look auditions. We had colleges there, able to see all of our high school students interested in majoring in dance. And then we had a college, a professional mock audition. So we had several companies, Nimbus, Carolyn Dorfman, come out and look at the now graduating college students looking for professional careers. So doing mock auditions, practicing on how to show up and at those real auditions are truly, you know, they're very, very important, as well as that opportunity to network and get your name out there and continue to offer yourself knowledge.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer, Carrie Ann. And I believe there was a follow-up question to that Wendy just dropped in the chat. How was your, ooh, whoa, it just like zoomed up. Okay, got it. How was your elementary and secondary arts education an important influence on your future career?
And that was for everybody.
Oh, cool. Clarification. That was for everybody. So anybody that wants to chime in on that one.
Well, for me, I can definitely say New Jersey students are so incredibly lucky. You know, because if I didn't grow up in a middle class family who could afford for me to go to a dance studio, I wouldn't have been introduced to dance until high school, where they do offer it as an elective. So I would have been a late bloomer, but really there's no ideal time to start. So my influence did come from outside of school. But after learning the New Jersey landscape and being here now for 4 years, I specifically work with implementing residencies into elementary schools. I could say that these students are incredibly lucky, and those who have had the opportunity to grow up in New Jersey and are now professionals, I'm sure has done you a great service.
We have time for one other panelist to enter, and I said enter. Whoa, I'm thinking in the future. I'm thinking about giveaways. We have one more. We have time for one more panelist to answer that question, or if not, I could pass it back over to Monifa.
I'll go. I mean, I was very fortunate to get that New Jersey education, and it's great. I mean, it formed my whole career. But one thing I wanted to say, especially to the parents in the room, we can make really good money as artists. So please, please encourage your children to follow their art careers. Mine didn't, so I feel like I need to say that.
I'll also say that when you're working with institutions, it's sort of like a give and take, right? They will benefit from you being there. So you need to benefit from you being there. So get all their money, get all their grants, get all their support. They're there to help you. Don't forget that.
I just have a question. How do you find grants? Like for your specific things you're interested in?
I think I'll speak from my understanding, but like once you're in a specific field, you'll learn which institutions give money to that space. For example, for art, you have institutions like the Andy Warhol Foundation or the New Jersey, there's a couple of foundations that are escaping my head right now, but like Mellon Foundation or Newark Arts also does mini grants. So it's just like getting to know your field and finding out a little bit more about it. It's where the grant money will come from.
Okay.
Like schools will do some as well, in cities.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. We appreciate all of you guys and your insights so much. This panel has truly been so great and just honestly mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, all of it. So we want to give you a warm round of applause. And with that being said, I'll pass it back over to Monifa.
Sounds good.